The fourth panel of the summit is titled Non-Profitable and Halal Economic Strategies Within the Framework of Islamic Economics. We will listen to our experts discuss how to better build entrepreneurial ecosystems, how to build trust in Zakat management, integrating Waqf with national development plans, and forming strategic frameworks in building a halal economy. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce the moderator of the panel, the head of Islamic finance at the National Australia Bank, Mr. Imran Loom. Please join me on the stage. Our panelists are founder, managing director, and chief executive officer at Taj Bank Ltd, Mr. Hamid Joda. Lead researcher, Center of Islamic Social Finance and International Center for Education in Islamic Finance University, Associate Professor Ziad Mohammed. Director of AAOIFI FinTech Working Group member, Mr. Motaz Aboujib. And last but not least, the General Manager at Halal Control, Mr. Mahmoud Tatari. Over to you, Mr. Loom.
Hoş geldiniz. سيداتي وسادتي والضيوف الأفاضل، يسرني كثيرا أن أرحب بكم إلى هذه الجلسة الهامة حول الموضوع استراتيجيات اقتصادية حلال وغير الربحية ضمن الإطار الاقتصاد الإسلامي. It's a mouthful. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this phenomenal session here today. A very important session that we're going to be talking about the not-for-profit sector, but halal economic strategies within the framework of Islamic economics. My name is Imran, I'm from Australia. And it goes without saying that the very foundations of this blessed land that we gather on here today were built on, sustained by benevolent people with using these benevolent structures. And these structures like Zakat, Awqaf, didn't just contribute to the development of society, they defined empires across the Muslim world. And today here in this great city, we are all inheritors of these visionary individuals that had us in mind when they were building the wells, building the roads, building the Sufi lodges and the souks of this city. And we all know that a lot of these Awqaf and Zakat institutions were nationalized during the establishment of the nation states. However, what we're seeing are the gradual embers of its resurgence. And today, that's what we're about to discuss. And to discuss this important area, we have an absolute blockbuster lineup for you here today. We have to my left, Mr. Hamid Joda. He's the managing director and CEO of Taj Bank in Nigeria. He's a seasoned banker with over 20 years of experience across treasury, retail banking, business development, and the public sector. And he's going to be talking about SME and strategies towards activation. Just to his left is Associate Professor Ziad, lead researcher for the Center of Islamic Social Finance at Oxford and the International Center of Education in Islamic Finance University, or ICYF. He's a global expert in Islamic social finance, specializing Zakat, Waqf, Islamic microfinance, and social impact Sukuk. He blends Sharia scholarship with leadership in sustainability, fintech, financial inclusion across multiple jurisdictions. And he'll be talking about the role of strategic planning in Zakat management. And to his left is our beautiful brother, Dr. Motaz Aboujib. He's the a fintech working group member of OFI. He's a senior Islamic finance and fintech expert with over 18 years experience in Sharia research, policy advisory, fintech innovation. He has advised regulators, financial institutions, multilaterals, contributes to books, reports, and Sharia compliant solutions across multiple countries. Dr. Motaz will be talking about integrating Waqf with national development plans and strategic alignment for broader impact. And last but not least, we have Brother Mahmoud. Where is Mahmoud Tatari, the General Manager of Halal Control. Mahmoud Tatari is a German electrical engineer with the founder of and General Manager of Halal Control, based in Germany, a leading halal certification body. And he serves as the head of the Integrity and Ethics Committee of the World Halal Council. And he'll be talking about halal economies, unified strategies. So without further ado, what we're going to do is, inshallah, we're going to have each of the panel members give a short talk, and then we're going to be opening up for a discussion. So I'd like to call Dr. Mu'taz to kick off the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Jazakum Allah khair. First of all, let me express my gratitude for the organizers for having this lovely event and choosing this important topic, looking to the strategies. I have very few slides which I'll be using and helping it to probably tackle this important aspect that's related to how we can basically address the key issue that we have, which has been highlighted since the starting day, starting from the keynote speech of the Excellency President himself, where he said, yeah, we have made some progress so far, but are we making the impact that we need or not? So, he highlighted that, yes, we have, when we look to the growth, yes, we have sizable growth, but at the end of the day, we are still very small when we have a very, I would say, low impact. We are not yet there, right? Maybe I will just take the podium for the presentation slides if the organizers can put the slides on, please. Brother Ibrahim. Okay, anyway, I mean, we can, yeah, no worries, thank you. Yeah. So I don't know if someone is, on the charge of the screen, if they can put the slides on. But anyway, we can move on. I think, it's, what I wanted to start with is basically to highlight that Islamic economics is not equal to Islamic banking, or even not just Islamic banking plus, zakat, or even not just Islamic economics plus zakat and waqf. It's a harmonized system of institutions that work together and to achieve the impact that we have. So what has been done so far that, we have started because of the domination of the conventional banking. What happened? Basically, we started by saying that, okay, let's have an institution to avoid using the ribawi system, or the ribawi banking system. So we came up with the Islamic banking sector. But however, the expectation that this one type of institution will solve all our problem is just not right. So that we really need all the institutions to work together. So in Islam, we have zakat to tackle on the needy side, on other few aspects that I will not touch more on it. We have our brothers will touch on this. But basically, zakat will tackle one specific or a couple of specific issues. And then we have the waqf. And the waqf can tackle also a long-term issues that we have, especially, for example, in education and health. So waqf is not just about mosque. It's not about building masjids and taking care of them. It's much way beyond that, right? So even historically, even when it started during the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it was the call to take care of a water resource, right? So that's a pretty much important aspect that we need to understand and take care of. And in fact, waqf is not also a government tool. And this is another very important aspect that we need really to understand. I think they put the slides on, but if we can have the pointer, please, that would be great. Yeah, thank you. Great, thank you. Yeah. So it is a cohesive, system at the end of the day, where they are like all these sectors, they work together in harmony. They are interlocked gears together, right? So Waqf is not a centralized system. It's in fact, it's to empower communities, right? So what we need basically is to empower communities. Let's say, for example, I am from a village, right, in a remote area. I will know what is the issues facing that community. And if I am privileged enough with some wealth, I will put some money, or I maybe call for other help, and we'll put money together to tackle a specific problem in that community. And this means that, the Waqf system, remember that, the Waqf is the one who put the fund and decide who will manage this Waqf. And this is very important, because this means a more of decentralization, right? So I will decide. Of course, government can play a role, and that's something we can discuss about later. And what would be the role of the regulator? But the bottom line here, it is Waqf is a specific type of institution with a specific model that can tackle specific type of issues, right? So taking this responsibility from the shoulder of the government and taking care of something that will ensure sustainability. And then we have other institutions. When we talk about institutions, it's contracts and beyond, right? So we have the Mudaraba. Mudaraba is basically to empower entrepreneurs, is basically to tackle that one aspect. And we are not doing justice when we say that why Islamic banks are not introducing Mudaraba. They may not be the best institution to use that contract. Of course, I'm not saying that they should not look into that, but it will not fit all the purpose. So what I'm trying here to say, we don't have much time to go into details on each one of these type, but what I'm trying here to say that, at the end of the day, Islamic economics is a harmonized system that works all together. It's like bits and pieces of institutions. They work together, right? So Waqf can be one on the central, probably, in my view, especially nowadays when we really need to have something beyond the traditional aspect. And I think, Islamic banking has received enough attention so far that we really need to take care of the other sectors. So at the end of the day, whatever we do, if we take out even one type of institution out of this Islamic economic system, I think, we will not be able to really achieve the goal. So this is, the call to rethink about our strategy, right? So this is why I put here, the title, if we are not on the right path, optimizing the journey would not take us where we need to go. So for me, this is a key message. This is where we need to relook to our strategy and build up upon it. So taking from that, the path to the sustainability, we talked about these institutions, but these institutions also, they are not enough alone. They are alone not enough really to achieve the goal. At the end of the day, we need to look into the whole ecosystem, right? So it's not only the financial, not just the commercial, the social, but we need also to look at the whole ecosystem. And when we talk about ecosystem, we need to look into all enabling elements, right? Human capital is the key, is pretty much key. But governance is also very important, right? Awareness in the market is another very important aspect, right? Innovation, which has been highlighted by some of the keynote speakers. I recall that the minister have highlighted even this. The minister has also highlighted yesterday a very important aspect, is the liquidity, right? So we need liquidity instruments in the market. So overall, we need to have, here I have listed just, 10 other aspects, like public awareness, human capital, liquidity that we talk about, the financial safety net, Sharia governance, legal and regulatory framework. So we really need taxation system. So we will not be able to succeed until and unless we tackle all the ecosystem elements. So it's about, having the impact. It's about harmonize. It's about harmony. It's about enabling this ecosystem, have a balanced development, all these, on this. And ISDB, the Islamic Development Bank, has done a magnificent job by introducing a tool, basically, a strategic tool, that is called Islamic Finance Strategy Mapping Framework. It's a framework, it's a tool as well that helps basically countries to do assessment of this ecosystem. So I was privileged to be part of the team, consultancy team under IFAS that they helped into developing this tool and implementing it, right? So what we have done with ISDB is basically to help the national authorities to develop a national plans that tackle all of this system. So what we do is we do assessments of this ecosystem, and the result of this assessment will be like, what are the gaps and what will be the solutions that we need to tackle to really get what we need. So overall, really the true progress for me is just, it's about having at least two elements here. The functional institutions and enabling ecosystems. So together, if we put them together and strategically we position them, we integrate them towards what we really need, our goal, I think then we will have the right impact, right? So to do so, and this is my final points basically here, is just to achieve this, we really need to have a comprehensive national plan. And there are at least 5 characteristics of this comprehensive national plan, at least in my view. Of course, there will be other aspects, other characteristics, but we can highlight at least 5. So the first one is evidence-based. So we cannot jump into, just assumptions. Islamic banking is not growing here anymore because of lack of product innovation. It might be the reason, but might be not, right? So we really need to have evidence-based, national plan. So we really need to start from identifying the gaps, the needs, and the priority, which will be different from country to country. We need to understand this because we often tend to just borrow, ESG plans as it is, etc. I'm not against that, but at the end of the day, there will be a national priorities. We need to have a strategic in design, so it's long-term in design, right? So we need to have integrated across sectors. We shall not leave any sector behind, right? So we need to take about waqf, zakat, commercial banking, social banking, SME financing, microfinancing, all of them, they work together. And often we really forget one of these aspects, right? So we don't look into zakat, we don't look into something saying that, this is out the scope of the financial regulator. But there should be a way to do so. And then it's about balance. So balance of deploying the commercial, waqf, and social finance, among others. And then the final point is purposeful, right? So we are doing all of this for a very specific, clear purpose. We should have the goal very clear. So each component, play a specific role. So we don't put over expectation of any one of these institutions. So let me conclude by that, and then thank you very much. I hope that I didn't take much of.
Yeah, no, you were good.
Within the
very
time.
mashallah, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mu'taz. Big round of applause. Next, we have Professor Ziad, inshallah, who will be talking about zakat.
Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Mursaleen. Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Ma ba'd. Allahumma la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. We, of course, begin by showing gratitude to the organizers. This is the second AlBaraka forum that I'm attending in the last few months. MashaAllah, the organization is exceptional, and more importantly, the talks from yesterday have been really inspiring, really on point. And I'm going to continue from where Dr. Mu'taz has left off. He's talked about an integrated ecosystem. Zakat can only exist effectively in an integrated ecosystem. I'm going to talk about some of the pain points and then opportunities, and then perhaps suggest some strategies on how we can overcome these challenges. So to begin with, I want you to do something. I want you to remember 3 numbers. I know it's after lunch and it's difficult for you to concentrate, so I want you to remember 3 numbers. And let's see if you do remember them when I bring up this discussion again. So the first number is 1.2 million. You got that? 1.2 million? Memorized it? Second number, 175,000. 175,000. The third number, 20 million. 20 million. Very easy. 1.2 million, 175,000, and? Yes? 20 million. Okay, just checking if you're awake. All right, great. So let's go into a brief discussion of how we are going to cover the next 7 minutes. First of all, I'm going to talk about Zakat as a divine mandate, a strategic duty. Divine mandate, we know that. Strategic duty, that's where we've fallen short. We'll talk about the massive untapped pool of Zakat funds available. We'll talk about the trust deficit, justice that requires transparency, and then finally time for some principled innovation. So very quickly, divine mandate. Divine mandate, we all know very well. More than 30 times in the Quran, Zakat is next to Salah as an obligation. We know it's the third pillar. And although a few days ago I've had the discussion on social finance with a group of academics, and they said, you know, Zakat is something that we should do from ourselves, meaning that it's a voluntary act. It's not a voluntary act, people. It's mandatory, just as Salah is mandatory in Islam. Zakat is also mandatory. But unfortunately, the understanding of what Zakatul Mal is, Zakat on wealth is fairly misunderstood globally. So you have a significant amount of Zakat that is not paid simply because of a misunderstanding. And I'll share with you experience as we go along to make it easier to absorb. We've done work in Central Asia, and I won't name the country, but we've done work in Central Asia, and we've gone from one end of this country to another, surveying the understanding of Zakat. And almost 90% of people would tell us, in their idea, in their knowledge, Zakat means that amount that you pay in Ramadan before the Eid. When we explain, but what about Zakatul Mal? They say, no, that is not for us. That's, for people with livestock and farming. We don't do that. So we don't have to pay Zakat on that. All we have to do is pay that Zakat in Ramadan, otherwise our fast is not accepted. This is an entire country. Yes, we are in a serious challenge. All right. Now, the Quran itself is clear. The hadith, the ahadith are clear. I want to point out one saying that is attributed to the Prophet ﷺ on the issue of zakat. Attributed to him, it has a weak chain, but the saying goes, "Az-zakatu kal-jisr fil Islam." Zakat is like a bridge in Islam, meaning it's a bridge that takes you safely to the right side of where you want to land on Qiyamah, but it is also a bridge of empowerment. It's a bridge of integrity. The commentators of this saying say it's a bridge of integrity, meaning it gives people dignity, money that they did not have, they now have to actually spend on their families. And this is a very important lesson that we learn. Now, we know the challenges. We know zakat is mismanaged in many countries. We know that zakat is not collected effectively. We know that zakat is not well understood internationally. But let's talk about some of the opportunities. So in 2015, the famous study by Islamic Development Bank and the World Bank identify, through a calculation of the GDPs of the OIC countries, that between $200 billion and $1 trillion US is available in zakat every year. Now, if we just take that figure and calculate what it would take to eradicate, although eradicate, I'm using air quotes because you can't really eradicate poverty, but to remove as much of poverty as possible, you'd need between 3 and 6 trillion US dollars. That's all. That's not a lot. If you had 5 years of effective zakat giving, efficient zakat management and giving, the entire world will feel the impact of moving above the poverty line. Do you understand how significant that is? This is just from one instrument. Dr. Mu'taz explained to us there are so many different components in an Islamic finance ecosystem. Zakat is only one element of redistribution policy in Islamic economics. And there are so many others. Now, there's a significant portion, often 80% or more in many countries, of zakat that is not actually collected. And even in those countries where zakat is collected, that means they have ministries, and there are about 7 countries that have formal ministries of zakat. We find that only up to 20% of actual zakat is collected in organized countries. And here I'm referring to Malaysia, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait. These countries actually have zakat mechanisms coming in formally. So, what is the big problem? First of all, the key causes of what we can call a crisis of confidence. In the Islamic world, we'd always talk about the lack of strong leadership. In the zakat ecosystem, we talk about the crisis of confidence or the deficit of trust. Now, what are some of the reasons that cause this? First of all, when zakat payers are unable to trace where their funds go to, they don't know when it reaches the mustahiq, the person who is eligible to collect it, they begin to lose confidence. So they say, well, because zakat is an ibadah, we want to hand it over by our hands so that we know we can answer on that final day that we have discharged our zakat. However, this creates a significant amount of inefficiencies. So significant that even in Pakistan, where it is a state-driven collection system, it is only approximately 2% of the population that do pay within the state mandatory system. And when I say mandatory, in Pakistan, if you're not sure of how it works, on the 1st or 2nd of Ramadan every year, 2.5% will be deducted from your bank account as a payment of zakat. If you don't trust your government, what would you do? A week or two before, you'd withdraw your funds, which is exactly what happens. I've done a full country survey in Pakistan, and then 2 or 3 weeks later, put it back in. So you're not going to pay that zakat. You will still pay zakat, but you will pay it with your hand. This creates a significant amount of inefficiency. By the way, we have investigated the zakat ministry and how they spend their funds, and really it is one of the most organized departments in the country. A very efficient and effective system. But because public confidence has eroded generally, they will still not pay that zakat because they, in their perception, will say, every time we pay zakat, an administrator has a new car. It's a perception. But that goes as a package deal. There are systemic inefficiencies and operational inertia. You know, when you use an old manual archaic system, okay, an old machinery, to suddenly convert into an AI agent that controls a workflow, it seems fictional, very fictional. Now, that operational inertia, which we can say you stuck in an old system, arises either because of old regulation, or because we are not well trained, or because we don't have adequate capital to change the system. And that is a huge, huge inefficiency. We sometimes need to look at the past to go forward. Umar bin al-Khattab radiallahu anhu established a very efficient zakat system in its collection and distribution. Umar bin Abdul Aziz, Umar II, in his priority of distribution and collection of zakat said, we need to build trust first. And if you know the history, when he stepped in, there had been a lot of public erosion of trust, very similar to what we've had now. In a very short time, he established such a level of transparency that it is said there was difficulty in finding a person to receive zakat in the entire Islamic empire. That's what transparency and efficiency can achieve. Now, the impact deficit. We are stuck in a consumptive zakat paradigm, which means we are still dealing with survival and needs with zakat in most countries. It is essential that we move that from a consumptive base to a productive base. And I'll talk about that in examples perhaps a bit later. Now, the strategic imperative, and I'm going to try and close with this. We said principled innovation. And how we can achieve this is with governance, good governance, innovation in zakat itself, and the use of technology. And I'll give you just one example before I hand over back to the able moderator. In 2016, 2017, we embarked on a project with the International Federation of Red Cross, Red Crescent in Kenya. And the idea here was to help the counties in Kenya. There were 4.2 million people affected by drought and famine in Kenya, and then suddenly there were floods. So the Red Cross, Red Crescent identified one area called Kitui County. Guess how many families live in Kitui County? The second number. You remember the second number? What was the second number? Brilliant. 175,000 families lived in Kitui County. So the idea was this: let's collect zakat, but we're not going to hand over zakat to them. They are going to take the zakat. The Red Cross will then implement it in a productive manner, because 175,000 families, the majority of them were farmers. So they would identify the area, which was approximately 245,000 acres. I didn't give you that figure, but it was about 245,000 acres. Identify all the bore wells and boreholes in that area, use the money, use zakat money to upgrade the bore wells, buy farmers' packs of green gram, and then train all the farmers in modern farming so that they can maximize the output from the land and make it a sustainable farming initiative. That means they can do more cycles of output of farming than just that single harvest. Fine. They reached out to Malaysia, and one innovative state in Malaysia, the Mufti said, yes, we will allow you, through the Sultan, to take zakat of $1.2 million. Remember $1.2 million? The first figure. Took $1.2 million, and then through a very organized and strategic plan, designed the rehabilitation of the land, prepared the farmers' packs and the training, and then empowered the farmers. Within 6 months, harvest comes out. What's the value of that harvest? Thank you. You knew the answer already. $20 million US. What do you think about that business proposition? Which capitalist entrepreneur will not be interested in that business proposition? $1.2 million, which was 5 million ringgit, converted to $20 million. Do you know what the farmers did? They were so excited with the output. They said, look, we don't need so much. In fact, we've never seen so much. Why don't you, meaning the Red Cross, take 30 to 50% of this, take half of this. There is a county next to us that is also struggling and suffering. Why don't you give it to them? And this is exactly what happened. And I'm going to end off by saying, we also, and the last challenge is we are stuck in the fiqhi issues around zakat. So traditionally, a scholar will say, well, you cannot use this zakat out of Malaysia, number one. You cannot use this zakat for a non-Muslim. Kitui County were at least 50% non-Muslim. So already it may be controversial for many scholars. But through a lot of thinking, a lot of debate, a lot of deliberation, they eventually allowed this to take place. So now you see an entire community that's empowered, where a 50% non-Muslim community is now willing to give to the community next door, which is 100% Muslim, the other way around. I'm going to end off by saying there are 4 things to remember from this discussion. Number one, we need to build trust, but that can only be done through radical transparency. If you use technology, if you use blockchain and AI, and we'll talk about that a bit later, you can actually enhance and build trust. We need to shift to productive zakat. In here, we need to invest in livelihoods, not just relief. We are in a relief paradigm, not in a productive livelihood paradigm. It needs to be data-driven. It needs to have Sharia governance. And here, we just can use AI to precisely tie in all of these initiatives. And finally, we need to have a collective accountability, because we know whatever good we advance, it's for ourselves. We're only going to see the benefit in the hereafter. And if we recognize and internalize that, we can get zakat strategically to benefit all of mankind, inshallah. I'm going to end it there and perhaps lead on with the questions.
Jazakumullah khair. Professor, a round of applause, please. Super interesting. Looking forward to that discussion afterwards. I'd like to call Brother Mahmoud Tatari, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The main topic for my presentation is to provide a holistic concept how to develop our Muslim society into a society of excellence and best practice. So also how to foster a broader recognition of the Halal Tayyib system, and how to deliver the amana across all the levels of the economy. The Muslim society is a value-driven society. Why a value-driven society? Because Islam is representing not only Aqidah and Sharia, but also Akhlaq, the ethical conduct. The ethical values, the application of ethical values in Islam are a divine requirement, are a divine or a dini requirement on us to apply. It's not an option or not a choice, actually. So we as Muslim institutions, organizations, companies of the public and private sectors who are delivering continuously or wanting to deliver products and services needs to implement a mechanism that fosters or that is able to deliver the amana in a systematic and systemical way. And this can be achieved through actually a systemic approach on integrity in the system. I will come later to this point. So we we talk today about a halal economy, but the halal economy is it's only talking now about actually the Sharia aspect. Normally, we should transfer this economy, the halal economy, into halal tayyib economy, to a value-based or value-driven economy, Islamic economy. Why? Because this economy, the value-based economy, can serve the value-based or the value-driven global Islamic society, or the Muslim society and beyond. Today we have this situation in the global halal compliance system. It is actually a mapping of the ISO landscape. We have the standard level, standardization level, the accreditation level, the certification bodies level, and also the industry who is implementing the norms and standards, the Sharia norms, in order to comply, in order to export them to the market. The system actually is designed to facilitate and to accommodate businesses, to increase customer satisfaction, to increase the quality of the products and services. And also the system wants to convey confidence among all stakeholders. But this system is actually not really meeting its targets when it comes to serving, to building trust, credibility, and confidence in the halal sector, because the system doesn't require you to implement the ethical values. So what we should do here is, this system is not able also to because of, for example, despite of accreditation, certification bodies are accredited through the system. Despite this, there are misconduct, there are corruption, there are many other issues. So this system is really not able to facilitate the trust among the players. We need here to integrate the ethical values. So this is a concept. The concept is actually a strategical concept, how to mitigate this or how to improve the situation. We should implement a quality-driven approach. That means a quality systems in all institutions, organizations, and companies which are in service of the public and private sector, which are delivering halal products and services in such a way that that not only that they drive the system to excellence, but also they should also implement a code of ethics in order to not only reach excellent products and services, but also best practice products and services. These best practice products and services are based on universal ethical values like honesty, like decency, like responsibility, accountability, and so on. When we ask, or the ulama institutions ask all institutions by decree or by resolution to implement two things, to ask all organizations, all Muslim organizations at least, which are claiming to provide the amana, the products and services to the halal ecosystem, they should or shall implement a systematic quality approach and an ethical approach. So the leadership could be made accountable also. When we integrate a code of ethics, the leadership could be made accountable. Also, we need to integrate it not only in the strategy, but also in the operational level, this integrity management system. We are in the OIC SMIC working on one system at the moment, and will be issued also in this year, I think. So this system is actually the Halal Tayyib system. When we talk about quality, we talk about ihsan. Inna Allah ya'muru bil-'adl wal-ihsan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded you to apply quality on all things. Compliance, Sharia, and other regulatory requirements. Competence, we need competence in order to convey the amana. Without competence, we cannot really convey the amana. And in order to reach then also quality, compliance, competence to reach excellence in the system. We can have, for example, this product. This product can be now produced 100 million times without any modification in the quality. This product have reached excellence. The company which is producing this product have reached excellence. But now we have to ask ourselves, what about resourcing of the raw materials? Are they polluting the environment? What is about the finance system? What is about the working labor? I think this system, through the standardization, can make a lot of new business, create new opportunities, and create a real sustainable halal economy. So when this system, for example, also when we go to a company the first time, and the first presentation is a presentation about the Islamic values. So the company say, yes, this is the same ethical values that we have, and say yes. So the answer of the company is then, okay, before we wanted only to implement the halal standards in order to export, but now we know it is an ethical system. We want the system in our company. So this system is producing continuously best practice products and creates a lot of confidence among all stakeholders because it's based on these values. And it attracts a lot of cooperation between governments, between organizations, companies, consumers, and so on. And this cooperation with everybody creates a lot of added value with, not only for the Muslim sector or for Muslims, but also for the society at large. And it generates a lot of recognition by the time. I mean, when this system, this halal tayyib system, is being integrated in many companies around the globe, hundreds of thousands of companies, the system will permanently and slowly drive to a system of best practice. Recognition also not among the society, but also inside the company, but also by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves the people who benefit the society. What is the purpose? The purpose is in the Quran. الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا وهو العزيز الغفور. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created death and life in order to test you on your best practice. And this system, this halal tayyib system, is a best practice system. Yeah. So we can derive out of this a vision and mission. The vision is when we apply such a system to become a global Muslim community of excellence and also to support the global community in providing or in fostering the best practice. So a value-driven society. So to become actually a value-driven society of excellence and best practice with the mission to continuously deliver added value for all, for the ummah and also for the society at large, for the sake of, or for the humanity and so on, for the benefit of humanity. So why we should do that? Because we have always to ask ourselves why we should do something, because when we apply this system as a successful, in a successful manner, we will be not seen anymore as a part of a problem, but part of a solution. Because we have a lot of problems in the world that can be only solved together. And this system is actually an ideal concept. So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Brother Mahmoud.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's give Brother Mahmoud a halal tayyib round of applause, please. Now I'd like to call Brother Hamid, CEO of Taj Bank, to talk about SME and strategies.
I want to thank the organizers of AlBaraka Summit for inviting us to this program, especially those of us from Africa. I believe it's very important to listen to perspectives from all over the world, Africa inclusive. I've seen a number of presentations here. Most of them talk about GCC, Asia, and so on. Well, those are more developed markets, but I think there is also a lot of potential in Africa, unexplored and untapped potential in Africa. I sit in Nigeria. We founded an Islamic bank in Nigeria about 5.5 years ago. It's called Taj Bank. And when we started, the Islamic ecosystem was still in its infancy. As you probably know, the population of Nigeria is around 240 million now. And the GDP of Nigeria is almost within the range of 500 billion. If you look at the GDP of West Africa, it's around 830 billion. So that's fairly sizable. And if you look at the population of West Africa, it's around, let's say, 300 million. And out of that population, you have almost 200 million Muslims. So 200 million Muslims and pent-up demand for Islamic finance. So let me just give an example with Taj Bank. Taj Bank started, like I said, 5.5 years ago. And we started with total assets of $17 million. And within 5 years, we grossed almost $700 and something million, almost $800 million in terms of asset size. So that gives you an idea of the Islamic ecosystem. And because of the success of Taj Bank, a lot of players now want to go into Islamic banking. A lot of banks want to open windows. There is a lot happening within the sector. If you also look at the halal sector in Nigeria, which is not well developed, you will find that in terms of religious tourism, Nigeria is probably number 3 or number 4 in terms of religious tourism. And that means hundreds of billions of dollars going into religious tourism every year. That also shows potential. And then, of course, if you look at other halal sectors, you will also find that there is a lot of demand, pent-up demand, and unrealized potential for Islamic finance. Now, what I'm trying to do is just to lay the foundation for how opportunities can be unlocked, because the size of the market is there, the interest is there, the population is there. So if you have all these ingredients, how do you unlock opportunity for not only Muslims but for society, so that we can liberate ourselves out of poverty, out of the quagmire that we find ourselves? I think it's something that can be done, as Taj Bank has demonstrated, as other institutions within the sub-region have also demonstrated. I think it can be done, and I think it's very possible. Now, like I said, if you look at the halal economy, I think this figure may be a bit exaggerated. I think it's around $3.5 trillion. But different countries are in different stages of development. For instance, I would say that Malaysia is the most developed market in terms of halal, Malaysia and the GCC. But in Africa, because we are not very structured, so the data isn't there for us to really realize the full potential of our halal industry. For instance, if you go walk into any supermarket, maybe in London or anywhere, some of those more developed markets, and you ask for halal food, this certification is there. So it's very easy for you to buy halal. But where I come from, it's not, there is no certification process. So, and that's where we are missing the opportunity. But like I said, the opportunities are there. And then you also have to look at the Waqf, Zakat, and Sadaqah, and other forms of charitable endowments, which offer sustainable models of redistribution. Some of my panelists have spoken about it, and I think these 3 pillars are very strong pillars, tripods, through which we can wrest Islamic finance and liberate the people. For instance, in Nigeria, if you talk about, or generally in West Africa, if you talk about zakat, just like Professor Ziad said, it's an individual thing. If you ask someone, okay, how about your zakat? You say, oh, I gave it to my family members. Oh, I sent it to my village. Everything is around consumption. But Islamic finance itself is not built on consumption, it's built on production. So how do we move these funds from consumption to production? That is a challenge. We have a lot of big charities in Nigeria. For instance, there is this charity, Aliko Dangote Foundation, And it was just voted, I think, last week as one of the 100 most influential charities globally. So they are playing on the global scale. But most of the things they do are channeled towards consumption. They distribute food items, healthcare, and so on. But they seldom go into funding productive activity. And I think that is a challenge for us in the Islamic ecosystem to try and convince some of these foundations on how to move from consumption to production. I think that is the motto that we should go out with as we leave this place. Moving from consumption to production. Production creates wealth. Consumption does not create wealth. So how do we translate that into reality? I think it's very important. Let me also talk about some of the institutional implications. I've talked about the institutional implications that we have, especially in developing countries. Remember in my opening statement, I said it's good to hear perspectives from all over the world. I'm sure a lot of you are very familiar with what is going on in GCC, Asia, and so on, more developed markets. And like I said, you want to hear about Africa. First is our governance structures, transparent, decentralized, and service-oriented, which are not really existent. So like Professor Zia said, there is a trust deficit in terms of the governance structures. In fact, we don't even have the governance structure. For instance, if you want Halal certification, how do you get it? There is no institution today that is recognized by the government that issues Sharia certification in that part of the world. So imagine if there is an institution that issues that certification. Imagine the kind of opportunities that it could unlock for SMEs, for a lot of institutions that are playing within that sector. So that is one. We don't have a governance structure. I attended a program, I think 2 years ago, where we discussed about this, and I suggested to government, I said, look, insofar as there is no governance structure or a body that is entrusted with the responsibility of reviewing and awarding halal certification, then we have not started, and we are not going to take advantage of the opportunities that are in this sector. So I think that is one of the things that is lacking. And then also the performance metrics, the success measured by Maqasid fulfillment, as well as... Okay.
Yeah, okay. I'm so sorry.
All right.
Last point, because we've only got 10 minutes, so I just want to go to the floor
for
some questions.
All right.
So do you want to make your last point? I don't want to...
Oh, okay, so that's fine. So, and the next is talent development. I think talent development cuts across, and I think it's also a global challenge that in terms of skills. Because even in Taj Bank, we have a foundation. But I think at the executive level, we need more enlightenment, more education, and to also build up our skills in terms of how we can realize the potential of the foundation. Because even in our own foundation, what we do is we still go into areas that are mainly based on consumption. We seldom fund productive activity through the foundation of the bank. So I think that talent development is very key, and it's something that needs to be realized, inshallah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. A big round of applause for Brother Hamid. In the interest of time, we're going to go to the floor. Please, if you can keep your questions super short. No comments, please, just questions. Yes, sister.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much. This was very informative. I have my question for Mr. Mahmoud. Would you please clarify the difference between halal and halal tayyib? I saw that both are the same before coming to your session.
Yes, sorry. Do you hear me?
Thank you.
Okay. Halal is, when we look closely in on the definitions, halal is coming out, is a term from the Sharia. Yeah, it's permissible, it's not permissible, how to pray, how to make wudu, how to fast, how to perform Hajj and so on. It's all a matter of Sharia. But halal tayyib introduce the ethical values. the akhlaqiyat. Because Islam is aqidah, sharia, and akhlaq, the conduct. We have not to forget this point, because you can be, for example, an Islamic scholar, yeah, very knowledgeable, but if you have not akhlaq, you will corrupt the system. You can be the best quality manager on earth. When you have not akhlaq, you will corrupt the company, the system, or the best finance chief, yeah. But if you not have akhlaq, you will corrupt the system. So there must be, based on this akhlaqiyat, is promoting responsibility, the amana. Because halal is an amana also. Halal, you're right, halal is but it's more the application of rules and standards, but also the tayyib gives the ethical values.
Thank you very much, Brother Mahmoud. I think we have time for 2 more questions. Sister, maybe one more question?
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. سحر زكي، مهندسة وباحثة ورئيس موقع تحرير القارات الخمسة 24. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. في سورة فصلت: قل إنما أنا بشر مثلكم يوحى إلي أنما إلهكم إله واحد فاستقيموا إليه واستغفروه وويل للمشركين الذين لا يؤتون الزكاة وهم بالآخرة هم كافرون. ولذلك قاتل سيدنا أبو بكر الصديق رضي الله عنه مانعي الزكاة. طيب طبعا أنا مصاريف الزكاة عارفينها، بس عايزين نربط الزكاة مع نسب الفقر والبطالة في بلادنا الإسلامية حتى يتم حلها. يعني عندي في ثنائيات تانية كمان، عندي جمارك وعندي بتمنع تواصل المنتجات بين الدول الإسلامية، عندي ضرائب وزكاة. الثنائيات لازم يتم حل المشكلات بينها يعني. وعندي عقوبات اقتصادية على بعض الدول الإسلامية، كيف تتحل؟ عندي دول غنية ودول فقيرة، فكل الثنائيات دي يعني متوقعا في المنتدى للاقتصاد الإسلامي إن هو إن شاء الله يتحدث عن هذه المشكلات ونجد لها حلولا يعني. وجزاكم الله خيرا.
حياكم الله. Ibrahim, we have time for one more, or does it? One more? Okay, one more. I think, brother, you've been having your hand. Oh, yes, please.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for very insightful speeches. My name is Dr. Hakan Beroğlu. I am the Islamic finance practitioner and academician. Here you mentioned about the main pillars of Islamic finance: integrity, transparency, trustworthy, trust, and all that stuff. Here I'd like to ask one question. As you know, Garuda in Indonesia, the national airline and state-owned enterprise, issued a $500 million Sukuk in 2015 that many saw as a quasi-sovereign. Its default in 2021 raised concerns about the broader implications for Sukuk markets, especially since corporate Sukuks are already viewed as riskier. In such cases, wouldn't it be valuable to have stronger governance and early warning frameworks led by institutions like AIOIFI or under the coordination of OIC to help monitor high-profile issues and safeguard confidence in Islamic finance globally? Thank you.
Who would like to go for that really quickly? Yeah, Professor?
So, very quickly on the issue of the supervision or the oversight on Sukuk, that takes place per jurisdiction effectively. There are central Sharia boards that have been established in many of these countries. And even if it's a global Sukuk, it has to be issued from a specific issuer and advisor. Within that, the jurisdiction will take care of the Sukuk in terms of its supervision. There are weaknesses. We require better governance. Sharia scholars are coming in and signing off structures, and they are not asked to review further. Alhamdulillah, in Nigeria, we've convinced the Securities Commission to implement an oversight procedure from beginning to maturity of the Sukuk. we encourage this type of approach where a halal certification is provided every single year through a Sharia audit of the Sukuk in the jurisdiction. I'll stop.
Fantastic. If I could just ask one parting remark. We're all gathered here in this beautiful city of Istanbul in a historic, current and future commercial and financial hub. Maybe, Professor, what is one thing Istanbul can do as a financial services hub to further strengthen all your respective sectors to have a greater social impact?
But brother, before we conclude, maybe we just can answer the second question. I think, because on the zakat, it was in Arabic. Yeah, so basically the question was mainly about, how we can relate, the zakat and how we can tackle our issue with the unemployment and the poverty that we have in our countries. I think we can relate this question to zakat and beyond, right? So one key element across all the sectors is the human capital, right? So the human resources are the key, and we need to really empower them, right? And education is really very important. I have a huge criticism, strong criticism, on the current education system, because it is like a blanket education system, and it does not really help us. So every sector and every time we need a very tailor-made programs, right? So in the example that Professor Ziad gave, right, on the zakat, they turned this 1.2 million into 20 million outcome, right? So imagine in that community, if we can, definitely the farmers in that community, they will need to be educated and we need to be trained on the tools, etc., etc. So maybe we can have a waqf, right, to educate them, right? So you see that the waqf can integrate, right? So that we can maximize the impact by having the waqf. And if I can highlight another important aspect, so human resources, and the another trend is digitalization. And the previous speaker, he highlighted about the importance of that, right? Again, we can think about waqf, establishing a waqf. Maybe a waqf can do a marketplace for those farmers, right? So they are, those, fintech or tech solutions, they are charging 20% sometimes. If it is waqf, this 20%, the profit that they can make can be basically directed to the same community, right? So this is how you can, integrate all this together. So this is where the waqf will work perfectly when the zakat is enabled, and then definitely there will be the other aspects that, highlighted also by the other speakers, right? So like, the financing becomes on the production, not on the consumption. So everything can relate in one ecosystem, and then we can tackle the problems that has been highlighted.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Professor, final words.
Very quickly, I would suggest a four-pronged strategy. The first, consider establishing an Islamic social finance exchange. It's been done before, it's been done in India, we're working on one in Malaysia, and there are several examples. So a zakat and waqf digital exchange hosted by Borsa Istanbul. That's one option. The details I will leave for another day. The second, consider establishing an Istanbul Waqf Innovation Zone. In this area, you will have an area of entrepreneurship, accelerators and incubators for businesses that will be waqf oriented. Initially, that entire building and system and training will be waqf. The third is the SME and microfinance ecosystem. You can consider establishing a blended finance guarantee fund that will support micro enterprises and SMEs that are getting into the market. And the fourth, for halal economy and trade, establish a one-stop halal gateway. We've done this in Malaysia, where we have about 13 different halal centers that focus on a zone, economy zone, that is halal manufacturing, travel, tourism, and Islamic banking, and they are designated in different areas across Malaysia. This is something that Turkey can actually consider doing as well. I'll stop there.
Fantastic. Jazakumullah khairan. Can I get a big round of applause for all the speakers? Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your analysis and your contributions to the summit, both to our moderator and our panelists. Again, we'd like to present to you a certificate for your contributions to our summit. I'd like to call up to the stage the Manager of International Cooperation and Business Development at AlBaraka Forum, Mr. Ibrahim Al-Sayed, to present these certificates to our esteemed contributors of the summit. First off, we'd like to present the certificate to the Head of Islamic Finance at the National Australia Bank, Mr. Imran Lum. the founding managing director and chief executive officer at Taj Bank Ltd, Mr. Hamid Joda. Lead researcher of Center of Islamic Social Finance and International Center for Education in Islamic Finance University, Associate Professor Ziad Mohammed. Director of AOIFI FinTech Working Group member, Mr. Motaz Aboujib. And the General Manager at Halal Control, Mr. Mahmoud Tatari. Right, and if I can have all of you step to the center and front of the stage for a family photo, one last family photo to mark this panel discussion. All right, once again, extending our gratitude to our moderator and our panelists for their contributions. Thank you very, very much for that insightful discussion. Thank you very much. Esteemed guests, the Türkiye Wealth Fund has played an important role in bringing Türkiye to becoming a leading hub of Islamic finance. They have particularly been hitting great milestones in the global Sukuk market. We've been talking about the Sukuk market throughout various panels of this summit, including the very last one that we just listened to. In 2024, the Türkiye Wealth Fund successfully completed its $750 million Sukuk issuance, which garnered an unprecedented demand from international investors from all across the globe. And these proceeds have been directed towards strategic investments within the Istanbul Financial Center, where we are today holding this timely summit, to enhance Türkiye's financial markets. Our next session is an institutional workshop that is titled Innovative Financing, Türkiye Wealth Fund's Sukuk Debut. This session will be led by four esteemed guests that are part of both the Istanbul Financial Center and the Türkiye Wealth Fund. We don't have a moderator for this panel, so it is going to be a lot more engaging than what we've seen over the last 24 hours. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome the Director of Financial Affairs at the Türkiye Wealth Fund, Mr. Tarık Özer. All right, so our guests are currently being mic'd up right now, but the Director of Financial Affairs at the Türkiye Wealth Fund, Mr. Tarık Özer, is ready and here for us. Buyurun efendim. Next is the Director of Legal Affairs at the Istanbul Financial Center, Mr. Hasan Ali Kulak. The Director of International Capital Markets and Project Finance at the Türkiye Wealth Fund, Ms. İmge Koç. And last but certainly not least, the Vice President, Attorney at Law at the Türkiye Wealth Fund, Ms. Gizem Zeynep Börükbaşı. Buyurun efendim. Over to you.
Welcome everyone on today's panel on Türkiye Wealth Fund's pioneering Sukuk issuance experience. My name is İmge Koç. I'm the head of International Capital Markets and Project Finance Department in Türkiye Wealth Fund. We don't have a moderator in this panel, but I will briefly make an introduction and leave the floor to my esteemed colleagues, both from Türkiye Wealth Fund and Istanbul Financial Center. I'm excited to guide this interactive session where we will explore the strategic rationale behind the Sukuk issuance, the technical structuring and execution process, legal background and mechanics, lessons learned, and practical insights. This panel is designed as a workshop, so we encourage dialogue and we are open to questions from all of our audience here. I will begin the panel with a brief background on Türkiye Wealth Fund and a summary of our transaction. Afterwards, each of my colleagues will take the floor in turn to share their first-hand experiences and discuss different aspects of our issuance. TWF was established in 2016 as an asset-backed development fund with a special founding law. It is a key strategic institution to contribute to Turkey's development and economic stability by managing publicly owned assets effectively. We are proud to serve as a significant financial powerhouse, a partner for direct foreign investments, and a dependable provider of equity solutions. The fund is wholly owned by Republic of Turkey, and our chairman of the board is His Excellency President Mr. Recep Tayyip Erdoğan. The current consolidated asset size of the fund is $318 billion as at the end of 2023. Nearly 40% of our companies are publicly traded. As TWF, we operate in various sectors. We can name them as financial services, transportation and logistics, energy, mining, iron and steel, technology and telecommunication, agriculture and food, as well as real estates and licenses. The companies in our portfolio, we call them national champions because they are the most well-known and established companies of Turkey, namely Ziraat Bankası, Vakıfbank, Turkish Airlines, Türk Telekom, Turkcell, and many more. The fund aligns itself with global standards and principles in its operation. We hold membership in various esteemed organizations such as WEF, IFSWF. Our funding sources include project-based or direct borrowing. We have dividends from our portfolio companies. We have rental and royalty incomes. We have returns from asset sales, as well as we can have transfers directly from the government. TWF, as I said, was established by a special founding law, and it is, as you can see, fully owned by the government. The management company of the fund is responsible for the management of TWF, and it is operating under privatization administration, which is the administrative body in the presidency system of Turkey. This entity is controlled by Ministry of Treasury and Finance. As stated, TWF has 3 separate asset classes. We have 32 portfolio companies, we have licenses, and we have real estates, all in Turkey. And under the real estate sector, we have Istanbul financial sector, which is the underlying portfolio in our Sukuk issuance. As the sole sovereign wealth fund of Turkey, one of our key mandates is to diversify and deepen the financial markets. In line with our mandate, we entered international financing scene with our syndicated loan in 2019. However, accessing international debt capital market is essential to compete worldwide. So back in 2020, we planned our first Eurobond, but market volatility forced us to delay this plan. Instead, we focused on our strategic investments through our portfolio companies. Coming back to 2023, after national elections, the new economic administration and the newly introduced economic program boosted investor appetite towards Turkey. And then, while Turkish corporates and institutions begin tapping the debt capital markets, we saw a great opportunity in DCM space. And after 7 weeks of preparation, as TWF, we launched our first Eurobond in February 2024. Our Eurobond had strong investor appetite and record demand, and we set a very good benchmark in the international market. Building on this momentum, after our successful Eurobond, we observed a significant interest from the GCC region, from banks and investors. We identified this as an untapped opportunity in the Islamic financial market, which hasn't been fully utilized up until that point. Up until that point, as I said, only Turkish Treasury and Turkish participation banks had issued international Sukuk from Turkey. Our Sukuk transaction is completed in 2 taps. The first one was $750 million, which was in October, and the second one is followed by $250 million retap in January 2025. With this retap, the total size has reached $1 billion. The proceeds from the Sukuk issuance was directed towards Istanbul Financial Center. For the purposes of the Sukuk, we have structured the transaction around the Sharia-compliant assets held by IFM company. IFM company, as the legal owner of the assets, acted both as the obligor and lessee of the Sukuk certificates. Additionally, TWF acted as the guarantor for the Sukuk issuance. The transaction marked a series of records. The order book was 14 times oversubscribed. This is the most oversubscribed Sukuk ever in Turkey, with demand reaching $7 billion from nearly 300 investors. Thanks to this strong demand, the deal closed at a final yield of 6.95, which is reflecting a 70 basis points of tightening from the initial IPTs. This represents the second largest price tightening of 2024 among all bond and Sukuk issuances from Turkey, and with our Eurobond issuance holding the first spot. Now I would like to pass the floor to Tarık Bey. He is currently working with us in Türkiye Wealth Fund as the Director of Financial Affairs. Before joining us, he was heading IFM's financial affairs and played a key role in coordinating the Sukuk issuance on IFM side. He will provide a detailed information about IFM today, the selection of underlying assets, preparations on IFM side, and the money transfer processes.
Thank you very much, İmge. First of all, I welcome to all participants here. In the beginning, I can say that today I am financial affairs manager director in Türkiye Wealth Fund. But as İmge said, I was in Istanbul Financial Center. So in the beginning, I can say that it is very, very good to be in this project, because if you get a success in this kind of projects, you can, let's say, get promoted from Istanbul Financial Center and Türkiye Wealth Fund. So it's an honor for me to be today in Türkiye Wealth Fund. I will shortly share with you just a small, a short video of Istanbul Financial Center. If we shortly mention about Istanbul Financial Center, the idea of establishing this center, in fact, the roots of it goes to 2009. And the first strategic document was signed in 2011. So, and in 2020, the company exactly established. So in order to have such a complex thing, you have to share and you have to work for long years. It's not a for short time planning, it's a long time planning result. And it is located, as you see, strategically at the heart of Istanbul and one of the Turkey most strategic projects. And in the end, when it is totally opened, the only Istanbul Financial Center will have dollar-based rent revenue, and this will be based from 20% from the shopping malls areas and 80% from office side. And hopefully the project will be completed, inshallah, next year in the first half. And it will be, has the value $2.1 billion. But all the financial center area with other banks, the total project has almost $5 billion value. And there will be 100,000 square meter shopping mall, and approximately 350 tenants will be in this shopping mall from different areas and different things. And besides, there is 1.3 million square meter office area, and almost half of it, 500,000, belongs to Istanbul Financial Center. And as you see, there are lots of different companies, and some of them today are active and based on government companies like Vakıf Bank, Ziraat Bankası, Halkbank, Kuvvet Türk, Ziraat Katılım, EPH, and let's say BDDK in Turkish. And these are all active now. And in this Sukuk time, in order to be, it should be Sharia compliant, you have to carefully choose which tenants are suitable for this Sharia compliant. And for example, we have faced with such a situation. They ask about EPH, which is English short is exist, Energy Exchange Istanbul. If it is suitable for the Sharia compliant or not. This was a discussion point for us, and in the end we saw that it is suitable, so we could give the building in which EPH is our tenant, and they accept this for this Sharia compliant thing. And for this Sukuk issuance, the other main thing is to work as a team in a whole at the same point of view. For example, when you discuss some issues with especially the lawyer side, my friend Gizem and Hasan Ali will mention more about it, the trade view is very, very important, because if you cannot talk with your lawyers at the same point of view, unfortunately, to finalize the Sukuk documents, because there are lots of documents which are related with different topics, is getting harder and harder and getting longer time. And Imge, please correct me if I am wrong, while issuing this Sukuk, we don't have such a much time, right? We have a short time, and we have to finalize all the documents in this certain time, and at a successful point, like as Imge said again, there was 14 times demand for this issuance. So not only time, also the key points, to determine key points in a short time is very, very crucial. These are the main things that can I mention about this issuance. Thank you very much.
Now, turning back to Türkiye Wealth Fund side, I'm pleased to introduce Gizem Bölükbaşı. She is the Vice President in our Legal and Compliance Department. Gizem Hanım, could you please walk us through the key highlights of the legal work stream? We would also appreciate if you could elaborate on the structure of the Sukuk issuance.
Sure, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. And in this part of the panel, I would like to talk about the key legal consideration in the international Sukuk transaction we had, focusing on structuring the deal, due diligence part, and the role of asset lease companies, basically. In general, mechanism of the Sukuk has three pillars, not specifically by us or in general. Firstly, you need an underlying asset or a project. Second, compliance with Sharia principles are must. What are these? Prohibition of riba, interest, prohibition of excessive uncertainty, gharar, and investment in permissible halal activities. And third one is return for the investors. In TWF Sukuk issuance, we have two different Sharia compliance structures in parallel under the same issuance. First one is ijara, and the second one is muraba. I don't know. Because as Imge mentioned, one of the TWF's mandates and strategic goal is reinforce, improvement, and deepen financial markets through the development of alternative financing instruments, including Islamic finance. And this Sukuk issuance is a very good example of that mandate. And using that hybrid mechanism strengthen the alternative finance resources in Turkey. Let me walk through our Sukuk structure. At the heart of the structure is the issuer, TWF ALC company, which issues Sukuk certificates to the investors, known as certificate holders. And these investors provide the initial funding. And then structure split into two legs. On the ijara side, the issuer purchases specific assets from the obligor, who is IFC, International Finance Center, and leases them back under a lease agreement. In return, the obligor, IFC, makes rental payments, which ultimately follow back to the investors as a periodic returns. On the muraba side, the issuer sells commodities to the obligor on the deferred payments basis, creating a Sharia-compliant financing agreement. Again, the resulting payments go towards fulfilling the investor returns. To ensure investors' confidence, TWF acts as a guarantor in this structure, backing the obligor's obligations under all the underlying contracts, including the lease, sale, and purchasing undertakings. And this dual-leg approach allows us to align with Islamic financing principles while offering investors a secure, structure, and income-generating products. So I also want to talk about why there has been a legal due diligence in Sukuk issuance, in general, again. In Sukuk transactions, legal due diligence is not just a regulatory formality. It plays a central role in ensuring both legal robustness and Sharia compliance. Due diligence includes review of constitutional documents of the issuer, financial statements, material contracts, legal disputes and litigation, regulatory licenses and consents. And it ends with management interviews and Q&A sessions. Legal due diligence helps confirm the existence, ownership, and transferability of the assets. This is critical, especially in ijara structure, where the lease rights and obligations must be clearly documented. And Sukuk investor needs to know the legal, regulatory, and contractual risks related to underlying assets. And the compliance with local laws, international security regulations, and applicable listing rules, particularly when Sukuk is issued under an English law-governed trust certificate structures and listed on exchange such as Euronext or London Stock Exchange. So in a sense, legal due diligence is the backbone of the investor protection and Islamic integrity in a Sukuk deal. And lastly, I also want to talk about why do we establish an asset lease company? What is the logic of that? Why the issuer directly issues? Why don't the issues the certificates directly, but we establish an asset lease company? As I mentioned before, at the heart of the structure is the issuer, the asset lease company or special purpose vehicle. which is typically established by the obligor or its group. In our structure, the ALC is established by TWF, which is also 100% shareholder of IFC. So you may wonder why is not issued directly not by the obligor. So here are the key reasons. First, bankruptcy remoteness. The SPV acts as a bankruptcy remote entity, so which isolates the Sukuk assets from the originator's balance sheet and helps protect investors if in sponsor face insolvency, which will not be our case, but I'm talking about general and the logic behind the ALC companies. And the asset holding and leasing. Second reason is to establishing an ALC company's asset holding and leasing. The SPV is the legal owner of the Sukuk assets and enters into lease, ijara, or sale, muraba agreements. It ensures the assets of ownership and cash flows are structured clearly and legally. And the ALC acquired title to selected assets, which Hasan Ali Bey will talk about in details, and lease them back to the obligor, in our case to the IFC, and issued certificates to the investors, all while maintaining Sharia and legal compliances, and simultaneously, in our case, purchased commodities from a third-party supplier and sells to the purchased assets to the obligor on a deferred payment basis, added a markup price to the original cost. And the SPV distributes the periodic payments, profit and principal, received from the obligor to the investors as a periodic returns. At the end of the Sukuk tenure, the full markup price is repaid by the obligor and investor receive their capital back. This is the basic structure of our Sukuk deal.
Thank you, Gizem. Now I'd like to bring in Hasan Ali Bey. He's the head of legal affairs in Istanbul Financial Center. Since this was Istanbul Financial Center's first Sukuk, the process naturally involved some complexities. Hasan Ali Bey, we would appreciate your insights on key legal points, particularly around asset transfers and KYC processes.
Thank you. Thank you, Imge. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I would like to welcome you all to Istanbul Financial Center as the only member of IFC's management company here. My friends have summarized the situation, actually. I would like to complete their remarks by discussing the challenges we faced, because as Imge expressed at the beginning, Istanbul Financial Center is a non-financial organization, so we are the first obligor and the issuer as being a non-financial. So we had some challenges at the process. I would like to divide my speech into three main headlines. The first one is the complexities of KYC process. And the second one is the foreign currency restrictions. And the last one is the hurdles in real estate transfers to the ALC company. As I mentioned, IFC is a real estate management company. It's not a financial institution. As we all know, KYC is a mandatory process for financial institutions to identify and verify their clients. Its primary purpose is to prevent financial crime. As being a real estate company and an entity of Turkish Wealth Fund, KYC process proved to be extensive and time-consuming for us. Being a real estate company, management company, a non-financial institution, standard KYC procedures often required adoption and clarification. Each financial institution within the consortium, there were 10, I guess, at the consortium, conduct its own KYC process. So it led to varied interpretations for the requirements. For instance, we faced absurd requests like asking the overseas entry and exit records of our authorized signatories. And it took 1 week to convince them. The comprehensive nature of KYC involving the entire company naturally required extensive internal communication. At this point, I would like to thank my colleagues and friends once again for their supportive attitudes. Overcoming these KYC hurdles required persistent communication, detailed explanation, and strong internal coordination. Ultimately, we successfully completed the due diligence process, paving the way for Sukuk issuance. The second and the main hurdle we faced was the foreign currency restrictions. As you may know, under Turkish law, residents are generally prohibited from stipulating the real estate agreements and payment obligations in foreign currency. However, there is a significant exception in capital markets legislation. A communique from the Capital Markets Board allows capital markets instruments to be dominated and issued in foreign currency, and for obligations related to them to be stipulated in foreign currency. While real estate transfer prices typically had to be in Turkish liras, international investors required foreign currency indexed payments. To resolve this conflict, we sought an opinion from the Ministry of Treasury and Finance. After extensive discussions with Ministry, we received permission to determine the contract price and payment obligations for Sukuk issuances as foreign currency indexed. However, this permission only pertained to the agreement executed between the parties. The amount on the title deeds still had to be reflected in Turkish lira. As a result, while the valuation of the real estate subject to Sukuk and the contract appendices are now in foreign currency, and the payment obligations are determined accordingly, the title deed transfer amounts are converted to Turkish lira at the central bank exchange rate on the date of application to the Land Registry Office. From my perspective, this dual approach actually complies with Turkish law while accommodating the foreign currency requirements of international investors. This was the key of our success from my point of view. And the last, streamlining real estate title transfers was our last hurdle. After resolving the initial issue, we faced completing the title transfers for 186 properties to the ALC company within a limited time of 10 days. I would like to summarize how the process goes. Normally, you have to apply online to the office, Land Registry Office. You take a message at least the second day of your application. Then you made your payments. You go to office, sign the documents, and take your deeds. However, we are talking about 186 different properties. This means we had been making individual applications, which would have been impossible to be finished in 10-day deadline. To address this, we discussed this situation with Land Registry Office and received a permission to submit applications in groups of 10. This bulk application method significantly reduced the administrative burden. Even for a small group of 4 people, it took more than 5 hours to complete the application. From the perspective of Land Registry Office, instead of preparing 186 individual contracts, this grouping strategy allowed for the preparation of only 19 contracts. International Sukuk issuances in Turkey based on real estate certainly present unique challenges. However, we have seen that with the right strategies, collaboration with regulatory bodies and strong teamwork, these hurdles can be removed. As I mentioned before, the dual approach we received from the ministry was the key to the successful completion of the transaction. Thank you.
Can I add something to your speech? For example, at KYC process, one of the well-known companies, we are asking them, how can you classify our company in your system? And we couldn't get answer from them. Even they couldn't get reply this question, right?
Yeah.
So we have lost 1 or 2 days. And also, as far as I remember, in land registry office, the person who is related with this trade registry was ill or we couldn't find him. So we have had to wait again 1 or 2 days. In this whole process, everything is, sometimes you cannot calculate the person, you cannot calculate and cannot know the situation, how it changed. So this was some of the cases we faced.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Hasan Ali Bey. To wrap up on this final slide, you can see the full transaction timeline. I will not go each and every step from initial board decision through the settlement. But I would like to highlight some important steps for us. One thing that I would like to mention is the non-deal roadshow and the deal roadshow. This was an essential step in our Sukuk issuance. First, we did a non-deal roadshow. We engaged with the investors and we gathered their initial feedback before going out for the announcement. And after the NDR, we conducted in-person meetings both in GCC region and in London, and as deal roadshow. And this is very much important, especially if you're in the Islamic finance markets, where direct communication are highly valued. The establishment of the ALC and the transfer of the underlying assets, my colleagues also mentioned them, added unique structuring layers that are not part of usual conventional Eurobond issuances, which had to be dealt with careful diligence. All of these steps highlight both the complexity and the strategic opportunity that Sukuk provides in diversifying funding sources and broadening investor reach. And lastly, if you are working on a tight timeline like we did, it is essential that all work streams are coordinated and operated simultaneously. And with this, I would like to thank my colleagues here and other colleagues in Türkiye Wealth Fund and IFM company. We are very proud to successfully finalize this transaction and set a benchmark in Turkey's Sukuk market. Thank you to all our panelists for sharing their valuable insights and experiences. Now I think we can have 2 questions from the audiences if they would like to ask us anything to the panelists. Please.
Thank you very much. It's really very insightful discussion and great to see IFC and the Sukuk market flourishing here. I think everybody is looking at Istanbul and Turkey as a center for Islamic finance. I have 2 questions here. One about IFC. Most of the financial centers, they have fintechs and the books accelerators and so on. You mentioned this only real estate. So do you have anything about plans to have a fintech ecosystem? You license fintechs or you help fintechs part of this, because this is very important for even fintechs coming from other markets which would like to come and work with you. That's one for you. And for the Sukuk, I need to ask, I think there is a new IOFI standards which was debatable. I would like to ask you, are you implementing this one? Do you have any thoughts about it? That's the 2 questions. Thank you very much and very well done from all of you. Thank you.
Let me take the first one. I'm not sure if you had any chance to travel around the IFC.
Not yet, but it's very nice. From far, from
It's
up.
totally 1,100,000 square meter office buildings.
Yes.
We have 3 different areas actually. We are now in the second one, which is banking area. Okay. And the one at the left side when you go out is fintech zone.
Phoenix.
Yeah, fintech zone, which we are now planning to incorporate Technopark at that zone. So I am sure that fintech, it will be a special area for fintech companies, national or international. So in 2026, I guess, it will start its operations.
Thank you so much. That's good. I have a company called Fintech Bazaars, like Egyptian Bazaar you have here as well. So can
yeah,
be
it will
part
be our
of you.
pleasure to meet you there.
Yeah, thank you.
I can answer shortly.
For the
So
IOF,
we are in contact with the banks from the region, GCC region, and also we are in contact with the legal advisors in the region. What I heard of is it is still uncertain. There's still uncertainty in the standards. How will it finalize? We don't know. But I think that's my opinion and hope. It will not jeopardize future transactions.
And this is what we are looking for.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, I understand. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, it seems like we've come to the end of that panel discussion. The Türkiye Wealth Fund, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for that insightful discussion. Of course, as we've done with every panel discussion, we'd like to offer a small note of appreciation to each and every one of you. I'd like to welcome to the stage one of our sponsors of the AlBaraka Summit, the fifth panel sponsor, in fact, with Ayhan Hukuk, the founder. I'd like to welcome Namık Ayhan, Mr. Namık Ayhan, to the stage, please. Buyurun efendim. We'd like to offer our first certificate to the Director of Financial Affairs at the Türkiye Wealth Fund, Mr. Tarık Özer. Now, the Director of Legal Affairs at the Istanbul Financial Center, Mr. Hasan Ali Kulak. The Director of International Capital Markets and Project Finance at the Türkiye Wealth Fund, Ms. İmge Koç. And the Vice President Attorney at Law at the Türkiye Wealth Fund, Ms. Gizem Zeynep Bölükbaşı. And I'd like all of you to go to the front and center of the stage for one last family photo. Thank you very much to all of our esteemed participants. I appreciate it. Esteemed guests, we are now nearing the end of the second day of the Global Islamic Economy Summit in Istanbul, but we have one very interactive and important session left to listen to. Our experts have time and time again stressed on the importance of investing in startups, but of course, the work doesn't just end there. It doesn't end with just investing. What are the strategies of Islamic entrepreneurship? And how do you sustain success in startups? To get more insight on that, I'd like to begin our public workshop. Please join me in welcoming the moderator, the president of the Islamic Cooperation Youth Forum, Mr. Taha Ayhan. Hoş geldiniz. Joining Mr. Ayhan is the Secretary General of Salih Kamil Sustainable Entrepreneurship and Enterprise Development Organization, Dr. Wael El-Dasuki.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The floor is yours, Mr. Ayhan.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
dear Excellencies, dear distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's a privilege for me to be among you today. And I'm also very excited to hear the speech and be the witness of this workshop, because it's one of the main areas of activity of ICYF for the betterment of the youth in economic terms. And again, in behalf of ICYF, welcome to the second AlBaraka Summit, second Global Islamic Finance Summit in Istanbul. First of all, I want to give a very brief information about the Islamic Cooperation Forum. The Islamic Cooperation Forum is privileged to once again serve as a strategic partner to the AlBaraka Summit, continuing a valid collaboration that reflects our shared commitment to promoting Sharia-compliant innovation, youth empowerment, and inclusive economic development across the Islamic world. Today, we meet at a time when several OIC countries are emerging as dynamic startup hubs. Turkey is a leading one, of course, and also the Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Malaysia, Indonesia are witnessing a surge in venture capital investments and high-impact entrepreneurial initiatives, particularly in fintech, halal e-commerce, agri-tech, and sustainable technology. For example, in 2024 alone, OIC-based startups attracted over $3 billion in disclosed funding, showcasing the growing confidence of global investors in the Islamic innovation ecosystem. From Turkey's flourishing digital infrastructure to Malaysia's leadership in Islamic fintech, and from Indonesia's vibrant health consumer market to the Emirates' startup-friendly regulatory landscape, these success stories are a testament to the transformative potential of Islamic entrepreneurship when aligned with strategic planning, ethical governance, and cross-sectoral collaboration. In this context, our workshop today aims to contribute to the vision of today's forum, strategies of Islamic entrepreneurship and startups for sustained success. Today, entrepreneurship is both a necessity and a powerful driver of economic change. In this workshop, we will explore how Sharia-aligned approaches to innovation, financing, team building, and growth can create value in ethical and effective way. And today we have a guest, Dr. Wael Al-Dasuki, one of the prominent figures in OIC geography in startups and entrepreneurship area. Dr. Wael Al-Dasuki, the Secretary General of the Salih Kamil Sustainable Entrepreneurship and Entrepreneurs Development Organization. Dr. Wael brings extensive experience in both theory and practice at the intersection of Islamic economic thought and enterprise development. I'm very excited to hear his speech. So, dear Dr. Floor is yours, please.
Thank you so much. And thank you very much for the introduction. Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahim. I'm very pleased to be here on this panel with Your Excellency, Mr. Taha, as the President of the ICYF. And I really, I'm very happy with the impact you're doing at ICYF, whether in Turkey or outside of Turkey, across the Muslim world. Real big impact, mashallah, for youth development and empowerment. So thank you very much. And inshallah, this session, I know it's the last one, and it's a very long day. Today we started at 10, so almost 6 hours now. But this session is quite different because many people are talking about entrepreneurship and Islamic financing and entrepreneurship. But is there anything else beside financing and riba-free financing for startups? Yes, there are many considerations to take care of when running a company or a startup. When I say startup, I don't mean a small company. A startup could be $100 million value-weighted company. But the thing is, starting something could be innovative, using technology, maybe fintech, deep tech, health tech, prop tech, this kind of innovative business models. But in the beginning, allow me to give you a quick introduction about myself and about Succeed. Succeed is a newly established organization, actually under establishment, as an international entrepreneurship organization affiliated to the Islamic Chamber of Commerce and Development. Inshallah, it will be based in Malaysia. for the purpose of entrepreneurship development across the OIC countries. So our mandate, our aim is to develop this vertical across the OIC countries, to provide a kind of platform to connect entrepreneurs from east to west, entrepreneurs from Indonesia to Saudi Arabia and from Nigeria to Cairo. So I mean, this is one of our main purposes. In addition to that, we also want to focus on entrepreneurship support organizations like incubator managers, accelerator managers, university-based entrepreneurship centers. What are the best practices to run an entrepreneurship program? What is the best practice to benefit entrepreneurs and startups and so on? Working with policy makers to have a kind of exchanging knowledge and best practices on the policies and regulations for developing entrepreneurship ecosystem across the OIC. The title of this workshop is Islamic Entrepreneurship, Strategies for Islamic Entrepreneurship. And usually when someone says Islamic entrepreneurship, it comes to your mind the word halal or halal business, right? So halal business, yes, it is one pillar of Islamic entrepreneurship, but not only halal, but, and not only Islamic financing or Sharia compliant financing. So this kind of fintech and health tech and platforms or startups that requires financing alternatives. But Islamic entrepreneurship is related to every single part of the business. I will show you how this is highly needed, and all entrepreneurs need to consider every single aspect of the company or of the business. Is it Sharia compliant or not? This is a very famous platform to grow businesses. It's called Growth Wheel. It's similar to the business model, but I personally believe that this is a very efficient platform to scale, to advise, and to consult startups, because every single company, regardless of the maturity of the company, they need to have a very smart and brilliant and innovative business concept. And they need to have a strong organization in terms of team, founding team, boards, board of director, board of advisor, and so on. And they need to have a strong customer relationship, marketing, branding, and strong operations. So this is the 4 pillars of the business. In every single pillar, from those pillars, there are numerous considerations or Islamic considerations related to the business. For example, the business concept. Any business idea, there are many parts of the idea, like the business idea, product portfolio, revenue model, and in addition to many others. If you look at this model, you will see that there are many Islamic considerations to each one of them. If you look at the business idea, for example, the intention to do business, your compass, your intention, it could be a positive. I'm not talking about haram businesses because this is very obvious and everyone knows that. Avoid doing a non-halal business but I'm talking about the intention. For the product portfolio, the product, the SKUs or the items that you're selling or your company is selling, the product and the product ingredients. When I say ingredients, I'm not only concerned with the clear ingredients, the food additives, the colorings, the value chain. There are many parts in the value chain that make a product halal or not halal, not only the finished product. And also the packaging. In some cases, some people, for branding purposes, they put a very positive or over-promising in their packaging. It's like your oil lowers cholesterol. Does it really lower cholesterol? Is this an honest promise or not? So in some cases, we need to take care of what's written on the package. It must be 100% honest, 100% true. Otherwise, this might not be a halal business. And by the way, some people do it for the purpose of this is what business needs. This is what customers are looking for. So we have to be compatible with the market. But you have to be honest as well, and you have to be to avoid any kind of deceptive messages or for the revenue, for the business revenue. where you're making money. Definitely revenue, I'm not talking about interest or riba, I'm talking about unclear discount policy or honest discount policy, hidden charges or hidden fees, late payments, you know, this kind of uncommon fees that you don't know until you buy the product, and you find unexpected fees or discounts or penalties. This is not encouraged according to Islamic rules in business. And monopoly, abuse. I'm not talking about monopoly in general. I'm talking about the bad usage of monopoly. The second part is the business organization, and here I'm concerned with the team, the co-founders, the founding team, the boards, the board of directors, the governance of the company. How Sharia is looking at this part of the business. So, for example, there are many things related to the boards and ownership, many things related to employees, to partnerships, legal issues, business processes, and every single part of this pillar, there are many considerations or many aspects that we have to take care of. So, for example, ownership and board, what kind of ownership between founders and co-founders? Is it musharaka? Is it mudaraba? And if you have, I mean, founders, they have to be aware of the different forms of partnerships and what works and what doesn't work. So if it's a mudaraba, for example, if the company makes profits, it will be allocated based on the equity. But if the Rabb al-Mal or the investor of the company loses money, who loses the money? Rabb al-Mal. Al-Mudarib, or the guy who's running the company or managing the company and is not investing, is not sharing in loss. So I mean, and the governance. Many companies, they lack the at-tadqiq, or being very, I would say, very selective when it comes to Sharia governance. Do they have a Sharia governance or Sharia audit committee, or at least a Sharia consultant to make sure that all the operations, all the business aspects, the logistics, the funding sources, the financial, everything in the company is according to Sharia or not? So this is something related to the ownership and board. Employees, having this kind of ethical HR practices, like no discrimination, fair compensation, paying their salaries on time. I mean, this looks very normal, and it's something it should be done by default. But unfortunately, in some cases, or some companies, they consider maybe delaying payments, or not only salaries or suppliers, paying suppliers. It's a process of cash flow utilization, cash flow optimization. But actually, is this ethical or not? And so it's not encouraged according to Sharia. And I'm not saying halal or haram. I'm not mufti, but I mean, at the end of the day, this is not an ethical practice. This is not, according to Islam, this is not one of the encouraged practices. It could be haram, of course, and it might be legal issues. Having some clauses in the contract that are not Sharia compliant. Maybe the process is Sharia compliant, the process is fine, is halal, but some terms like unclear terms, it make it, you might have a kind of gharar in the contract, or maybe penalty causes. In some cases, the penalty is not relevant to the contract, or maybe penalty for late delivery. Again, according to Sharia, this is not encouraged as well. There are always ways to solve the business solutions and to improve the business operations, but we have to take care of the non-Sharia compliant clauses. A third part, which is very important, and every single company to be successful, they have to take care of, which is customer relations and marketing and branding. So when it comes to networking, marketing, sales, branding, public relations, again, they have to take care of what is compatible with Sharia and what is not. So for example, deceptive advertising, it's very similar to the packaging thing. In some advertisements, they claim, or exaggeration in their claims or the brand promise, and this is not. And in some cases, they have this, what they call psychological manipulation, messages in the advertising that is addressing the subconscious of the consumer, or subliminal messages, subliminal advertising. Again, this is not ethical, and this is because the message is not direct, the message is not honest, the message is not clear, exaggeration is not encouraged. In the sales process, some hidden fees, some upselling, but the coercive upselling. You need to buy this, and afterwards you'll discover that you must buy other products to be able to use your product. Or warranty clauses that are not clear and not specific. And the final aspect of the business is the business operations. And when I say operation, I'm talking about financials, I'm talking about funding, I'm talking about production, I'm talking about facilities and IT systems. Even IT systems, there are some considerations related to the IT systems. So for example, the financials, is there any revenue coming from a non-halal source, like loan, interest, riba, or that? Are you paying the zakat? Are you calculating your zakat correct or not? Is there any kind of delayed payments to the suppliers? For the funding, and this is very important because in startups, usually entrepreneurs, they look for equity financing. So they get their money from accelerators, from angel investors, from venture capital fund. And usually, this is a very clear relationship, direct relationship. They get investment against equity. So they get paid $1 million against 30% equity, and this is very clear, and this is very encouraged. But some clauses in the term sheet with the investors or the VC funds started to be non-Sharia compliant, like convertible notes, like safe notes. And many other, like debt financing from VC venture capitalists. So not because this is a VC fund, so it's halal. Yes, definitely it should be, and this is the origin of the, or this is the nature of VC funding or investment. But some terms in the term sheet or some clauses in the term sheet, in the investment term sheet, might not be Sharia compliant, so they have to take care of. So, for example, safe notes, there is some kind of, or some scholars, they say that it's not compatible with Sharia because safe notes, entrepreneur, they get the money or they get the investment, but the equity or the part of the company that they will sell is not clear, is not identified. It will be identified after maybe a year or 2 or 3 when the next round of investment, so that when the company is valued for the next round of investment. So there is some sort of unclarity or gharar in this transaction. Convertible notes, it's an investment, but it is also a loan. So I mean, this kind of financing in many cases is not compatible. Yet there is a solution and there is a way to fund the company. And there is a way, if they want to reach to that specific objective, there is an Islamic compatible tool, financing tool, for every single kind of business transaction. And I will talk about that later. IT systems, which is very interesting. This manipulation software is not ethical, it's not Sharia compliant. This data privacy policy is, again, if the data privacy policy or misuse of data is not ethical as a business practice. So for the funding part, because this is very challenging, and many entrepreneurs and maybe investors, they go to the VC term sheet that might not be Sharia compliant, like safe notes, convertible notes, and debt financing, and so on. But there is always a way for funding, like mudaraba, like murabaha, like musharaka, like istisna, like salam. So there are so many different forms of financing or funding. So if a company wants to get an investment against equity, they can. Mudaraba or musharaka. If a company wants to finance an operation, wants to finance a production line or expansion or investment in distribution or anything, they can have murabaha or maybe ijara, which is leasing. If a company wants to finance a real estate property, so nothing that does not exist and they want to do it from the beginning, they can go for financing tool like istisna. I mean, there are so many financing, I would say, financing methodologies that are Sharia compliant and are allowed, and they solve every single problem for any company or for any entrepreneur in different formats. Whether financing an operation and the investor is not part of the company, they don't own part of my company, or investor and sharing profit and loss. So it works in all ways. So this is in brief what I want, because I know the workshop time is very tight, and very open to any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wildby, for a very insightful speech. And I'll take 2 minute notes. And in my behalf, I mean, that's a great speech for laying a foundation for about and halal entrepreneurship and startups. For opening up the discussion, I want to start to ask a question, if you allow me. For about the support and funding model, I think for startups, it is one of the most essential part to find the funding. And if we are talking about halal, we should talk about some halal funding. And in your presentation, you had given some sites about how we can find a halal funding base. So there are many terms like incubators, accelerators, angel investors, or venture capital. Could you clarify how this differ and which are most appropriate for the Islamic startups, and for funding wise, what do you advise to the startups or for new entrepreneurs?
Yeah, exactly. This is very important because the entrepreneurial journey is quite challenging, and entrepreneurs, they innovate something new, something from scratch, something that has not been there before. So they want support. They want different kind of support, and in the beginning or very first phase of setting up the company, they need an incubator, maybe a competition as well. And the purpose of the incubator is supporting ideas and this process to move from an idea to business launch. And in this phase, the founder or founding team, they need mentorship on marketing, on business plan, on founding team, and on valuation of the company, on the pricing of the business, or pricing of the products. So this is in the very early stage, or maybe prototype development as well. So, and this is the main objective of the incubator. And the incubator might give a grant, a small amount of money to have a prototype. And then when the company is established and they need some investment to be active in the market, they go to an accelerator, or maybe they get angel investment money. Usually it's around $100,000 to $500,000. In some cases, angel investments might reach to millions, but I mean, this is the normal range of acceleration investment or angel investment, 100,000 to 500,000. For equity, and again, this is negotiable, but usually 8% to 15%. This is, and the purpose of getting this investment is to scale the company, and they usually ask for an investment that covers 18 months of operation. So, so if they need investment $500,000 and it will not be enough for 18 months, they better ask for an investment that will cover this time span of operations, because otherwise, if the money, if they have a cash flow problem after 6 or 7 months, most probably they will not continue. And the problem is not the business, the problem is cash flow. So, and then if the company passes this phase and they make it to the market and they become well established in the market and they think of internationalization or they think of scaling the business or having this kind of aggressive market penetration, they usually go to VC funding because they want to raise $1 million, $2 million, $50 million, $100 million, it depends. So the kind of investors who usually support startups or entrepreneurs with this amount of money is VC funding. And usually VC funding because they are looking for innovations, they are looking for disruptive technologies, and they are very willing to take risk and to lose the money, not all the money, but I mean their policy, they invest or the portfolio, if a VC, a venture capital fund of $20 million, for example, they invest or deploy the $20 million in 5 years, and they usually invest it in 15, 20, it depends on the investment, 15 to 20 companies, and they want to exit from the companies over 10 years. So this is the process. They don't expect all the 20 companies to make profits and to scale, but they expect only 2, 3, 4 companies out of the 20, like 10% of the companies to excel and to scale and to have this 30x valuation to scale like 30 times, and they accept 3 or 4 other companies close the business, and they accept the majority or the rest of the 20 companies to be average, to be surviving. So this is the process usually. So in the idea phase, incubator, scale up phase, accelerator or angel investment, and then the VC funding for larger investments.
Thank you very much. Yes, these are very honest numbers. I mean, 3 out of 20 entrepreneurs to scale up. Sometimes it's a good number even. And if you allow me, I want to ask a second question. What about the founders and trust and partnership? What common pitfalls do new entrepreneurs face in co-founder relationships, and how can they establish sustainable values-based partnerships? And I know that in the presentation you have touched to the issue, but I think it should be better to go deeper on this issue.
This issue is very critical in any business success because when we ask an investor what is the criteria you're looking at when you're assessing a business, number one, he says, or she, founding team. This is number one. Because if the founding team is very capable or professional enough or have the vision, most probably the business idea will be changed. Most probably, like 90% of ideas in the beginning, it is either pivoted, changed a little bit, or changed completely. From the concept, from the name, from the target market, from the pricing, even from the industry. So they invest in founders who are resilient, who are taking risk and flexible. And so this is the most important thing. And there are many problems that happens with the founding team, starting with unclarity of the roles of co-founders, who's doing what. And usually it starts with 3 or 4 friends. And no problem with having friends and partnerships, but having friends without clear roles, this is a big problem. So they need to be very clear from the very beginning who's doing what, who's doing the marketing, who's doing the finance, who's doing the sales, who's the CEO. And when I say CEO, he's the decision maker. So and everyone should respect that. And do you have a board or not? What is the decision making process within the company? I mean, decision making process. Who's doing the strategic business decisions? And in case of a conflict happens, what is the process to make this decision? Will you fight as co-founders, or there is an advisory board that you will refer to? Who's doing the hiring decisions? Who's doing the pricing decisions? In the beginning, they don't expect that this will make problems afterwards or on the company scale, but what happens in reality, this makes a lot of problems. This is one thing. The second thing is who's taking what? I mean, equity. Is it 50-50% or 10-90? And this should be fairly evaluated. And when I say fairly evaluated, I evaluate not the personal relationship, but I evaluate importance of the business. So in some cases, for example, blockchain company, the blockchain developer or expert value in this company is 80%, 90%, could be 100%, because this is a kind of deep tech company. So the technology component is very important. But for an e-commerce platform specialized in kids wear, the expert in the kids wear industry, his value or her value is the most significant to the business. While the technology component, it is important, yes, but might be 10%, 20%, because it's a normal e-commerce platform. So even the value of technology, the value of marketing, the value of sales, the value of industry expert, it differs from a company to another company. If it's a deep tech company, usually the founder or the guy who has the deep knowledge or deep skill, his value or her value is the highest. All that must be very clearly written in shareholders agreement before the company contract. But unfortunately, what happens is they set up a company, 50% for both partners, or maybe 33% for 3 partners. And after a year or 2 years or 3 years, one of the founders find a better job opportunity, but he's still on the board and he's still own 30% of this company, and he or she is not adding value. So it is very important to have this policy as well. What if you don't do your role as a co-founder, and we are expecting contribution in terms of working hours, in terms of expertise, in terms of deliverables, in terms of KPIs and OKRs and so on. So what if you don't deliver as a co-founder? In some cases, especially university or youth, since we're talking about youth and youth-led startups, you find graduation projects in the university, 10 or 15 co-founders, because it's a graduation project. This is their graduation project. So the whole class are doing a prototype or a product, and all of them, they want to set up a company. So it ends up with 20, maybe 15 to 20 co-founders. And we always advise, and it could be shocking in the beginning, who's doing what, and who's doing the marketing, who's doing the technology, and who's willing to give at least 8 hours a day to this company. Because what happens after they graduate, someone works for a multinational company, someone works for a bank, someone gets married, someone joined the army, someone travel, and someone is not interested in this business. So it ends up with only 3 or 4 from the 20 co-founders are doing what is required, but they only own 5% of the company, while 14 or 15 other co-founders, they own 60, 70, 80% of the company, and they're not there anymore. So this is enough reason for any company to collapse, to close the business. So that's why it's very important to have this very clearly highlighted in the shareholders agreement, and the shareholders agreement before the company contract. So I know this sounds like very common for multinational companies, for corporations, because it's part of the governance. But for startups, it's different, because most probably it's their first time to do business, and they always have very high expectations and very ambitious about the business and the success of the business. And this is not the case in 80% of startups or for startups. So that's why everything must be very clear from the beginning, and the relationship between the co-founders must be very clear, who's doing what and who's getting what for this. Are they getting salary or not? If they are, and again, they have to review this from Sharia perspective, getting salary and getting profit sharing, and they're not investing money. This must be very clarified from the beginning, and the relationship with the investors as well. So this is a very important. It's a key pillar for the business. And let me ask the audience, if possible, there are 5. I would say most important pillars for a business success: the idea, the team, the business plan, the funding, and the right time. idea, team, business plan, funding, right time. Which one you think is the most important? Who's with idea? Idea is the most important, and idea. Who's with team? Maybe after this question, yes. Who's with the business plan, having a clear business plan? Only one?
Two. Yeah,
Two,
three.
yes. And the funding, money, investment. 2, 3. And the right time. Yeah, based on research, the right time is the most important factor. Why? Because most probably they will change the business idea. And if they change the business idea, definitely as they move on and as the business change, the business plan should be changed as well and updated every year or 2 years or 5 years. And there is always a way for funding, different forms of funding, and there isn't a big problem in funding. By the way, it's if you have usually VCs, they say one of my friends is a fund manager, one of the well-known fund managers. He says that we usually don't invest in companies that are tracing us, but we trace the most potential companies. So if they build something real, if they build a real company, investors will look for them and they will trace them. But we cannot change the right time. We cannot change the time. We cannot change the consumer perception or acceptance or the industry. So we can change the idea, we can change the team, we can change the business plan, we can change the way of funding, but we cannot change the right time for this market to accept this specific industry. So yes, team is very critical and very important, and all investors look at the right team and the format for the right team in the right time. So this is a very important consideration.
Thank you very much. Your points are very clear and very to the point, very precise, clarifying the roles of the team and especially keeping the pace among the team are very important. Sir, we have 5 minutes more. If you allow me, you can have a question from the floor.
Yes, definitely, please.
Before the closing. So, please choose among the
yes, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So, a graduate from Economics and Finance. Thank you very much for your informative speech. I just want to ask, considering you said that time is, in your view, the most important of the 5 factors, normally one would try to work with the factors that he has most control over, naturally. So in terms of time, are you referring to time in terms of it being as chance, as health, that a person might be able to hit the jackpot at the right time, Google, maybe Apple, maybe the beginning of the internet or the beginning of the digital age? Or are you referring to time as something that is controllable, and that team or that CEO or that person that is supposed to provide the other factors is supposed to consider in terms of decision making? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the question. Yes, time in terms of the right time for this business, in this industry, in this market. And the right time does not mean I have a chance. Yes, definitely having the chance and not taking the chance is a big problem. But I mean, in some cases, what might work in Istanbul this year, if you go back 20 years ago, it was different. Different market dynamics, different consumer preferences, different usage and attitude, different fashion, different lifestyle, different perception, different preferences, different buying habits. So if you sell the same technology 20 years ago, maybe it was not important. Like, for example, if agriculture, I would say, farmers were there or sources of energy were cheap, solar panel market might not be very promising. But now, as the energy is becoming very expensive, in all countries, all firms, a solar panel and all solar energy is electric cars. Maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, it was not, yeah, it might not make sense, especially in GCC countries where the oil prices are low. You might fuel your car with maybe $3 or something. But now the market dynamics change and the energy is getting very expensive. So this is the right time for electric cars. 10 years ago, it was not the right time for. So this is what I mean by maybe 20 years from now, maybe electricity becomes expensive and there is another source. So this is what I mean by right time. Right time means people accepting, or will people accept that today in this country, in this market, with this price? Or maybe you need to wait for 1 year or 2 years or 3 years.
I mean, we are seeing it on delivery-based applications during the COVID times. They become multi-billion investments, but afterwards COVID, nowadays they are not anymore trendy. So thank you very much for your question, and
Yes.
thank you very much for a very insightful answer.
And also for the edtech, educational technologies and educational startups, during the COVID, the business boomed tremendously. The logistics companies and e-commerce companies during the COVID, they boomed tremendously. While companies in tourism, for example, they almost closed the business. So they were lucky to have logistics or educational company during the COVID, but because this was exactly the right time. So yes.
When beautiful restaurant ideas, for example, has been unfortunately spoiled during the COVID times. But after COVID, now we can have a new chance. Thank you very much, Dr. Weil, for this very insightful remarks. And dear Excellencies, dear valuable guests, dear ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your patience. And in closing, I extend my heartfelt thanks to Dr. El-Dasuki for his valuable input, and to all of you for your active engagement in this meaningful dialogue. As highlighted throughout this workshop, Islamic entrepreneurship is a strategic pathway to balance ethical responsibility, community development, and economic resilience. I invite all participants to continue the conversation during the networking sessions and explore collaborative ventures that align with our shared principles. May the insights exchange today contribute to shaping a generation of visionary principled entrepreneurs. And I also want all of you to invite to follow ICYF Incubation Center in Istanbul, which is open to all kind of international incubation ideas, entrepreneurial ideas, and startup ideas. And thank you very much, and may peace and blessings be upon you all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Actually, thank you very much, our great speakers. It is really good to hear from you. You are the leader in the area of entrepreneurship and building this kind of industry. Actually, a lot of people are reviving and depending on building this kind of sector by depending on Islamic finance, Islamic economy, banking, fintechs, and all that. Thank you very much. And just as a kind of appreciation, let me introduce you just simple certificates. To do that, I would like to call to the stage Namik Bey Ayhan, the founder of Ayhan Hukuk, one of the sponsors of this global summit. And it is very worth to mention that ICYF, which is led by Mr. President, Mr. Taha Bey Ayhan, is one of the sponsors of the second Global Islamic Economy Summit, and here is his certificate.
Thank you so much.
And Dr. Wael Ad-Dusuqi, the Secretary General of Saleh Kamel Sustainable Entrepreneurship and Enterprise Development Organization, Succeed, which is leading in entrepreneurship to success.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you once again, and thank you very much for all of you, our esteemed guests. And it is the end of our day today. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for staying patient to the end of the day. And don't forget that we are waiting for you tomorrow. So tomorrow our day is going to start around 10 a.m. We have 3 special sessions that will start from 10 to end by 4 p.m. Thank you very much, and see you all tomorrow. And assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.